Chapter 66-45. After realizing that Zhong Yiluan was nowhere to be seen, Gong Jun's face fell. "Boss, Zhong Yiluan isn't here. Even if he isn't here, it's fine. The competition is about to end, and it's our fault that we didn't come up with a plan." Bailey Hongzhuang consoled him gently. Ever since they killed the self-destructing monster, their points had risen by a large margin. Even though she wasn't sure of the result, she was still quite confident in her points. "Don't worry, let's wait for a while." Di Beichin smiled faintly. His handsome and unparalleled face was calm and indifferent, like a wisp of wind. Any worries could be blown away by the wind. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun stood to the side looking around. After climbing over the hill, the ranking board would be right in front of them. Speaking of which, their location was quite convenient to find someone. Just as they were thinking, an excited voice came from the side. "My lady, you're finally here." Hearing the voice that sounded like tears of joy, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but turn to see Zhong Yiluan crawl out from the bushes. At that moment, there were a few strands of grass stuck to his head. Obviously, he had been hiding in the bushes to not attract attention. When he saw them arrive, he quickly ran out. Compared to the first time she saw him, his appearance at the moment was really too embarrassing. In the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang, there was an inexplicable feeling of joy. "Zhong Yiluan, did you bring the points?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Yes, I did." Zhong Yiluan nodded repeatedly. "I've brought them all. My lady, I'll give you all the points, but you have to give me the antidote." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her right hand. "Show me the points first." Zhong Yiluan respectfully handed his ID card to Qingchong. "My lady, I've brought all the points. I've not left a single one behind." Glancing at the points on the ID card, a satisfied look appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. From the looks of it, Zhong Yiluan's team's efficiency in obtaining points was quite good. If these points landed in by Liuchuan's hands, he might really become first place. After transferring the points to her ID card, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up when she saw the points rise by a large margin. First place should be in the bag. When Zhong Yiluan saw that the points on the identity card had been reset to 0, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of pity in his eyes. However, he quickly erased this trace of thought and nervously said, "Great aunt, I've already given you all the points. The antidote. Here you go." Bailey Hongzhuang placed the antidote in Zhong Yiluan's hand. "I always keep my words." Looking at the antidote in his hand, Zhong Yiluan was stunned. He couldn't believe that she would really give him the antidote. He knew very well how much he had gone overboard with what he had done earlier. Even though he had handed over the points, he only had a 1 in a million hope. Under such circumstances, most people wouldn't give him the antidote. However, looking at the antidote in his hand, he suddenly felt that the woman before him was emitting an endless glow. Instantly, the hatred from before seemed to dissipate. Chapter 66-46. Don't worry, this is the real antidote. If I don't want to save you, I just don't need to give you the antidote. There's no need to go through so much trouble. I believe you. Zhong Yiluan nodded repeatedly and immediately swallowed the antidote. "Leave this place as soon as possible. If you are discovered, you won't be able to keep your life." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. She wasn't worried that Zhong Yiluan would tell Bai Luchuan about this matter. After all, they were already enemies, so she didn't plan on hiding it. On the contrary, if Bai Luchuan knew about this, he would definitely be very angry. His expression would definitely be very interesting. Zhong Yiluan looked at Di Beichin and Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. A hint of regret flashed across his eyes. The next moment he quickly left. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her eyes and said with a smile, "Gong Jun, your judgment is really amazing." Gong Jun himself found it unbelievable. "I didn't expect this guy to really be here." "Boss, how did you know?" For a moment, the two humans and two beasts looked at Di Beichin in surprise. His judgment in this aspect was simply too amazing. However, Di Beichin didn't say anything. He turned around and slowly walked towards the ranking board. Deliberately mystifying. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and quickly followed. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Luchuan appeared, Wen Ziren and company immediately noticed them and quickly came forward. "Where did you guys go?" "You actually arrived a day later than us," Wen Ziren asked. "Naturally, we went to earn points." Di Xiaofeng's face also revealed a hint of surprise. "Hongzhuang, I just realized that your points suddenly increased a lot. What's going on?" As they hadn't seen Hongzhuang and Bai Luchuan, they couldn't help but feel worried. Therefore, they had been staring at the points on the ranking board. As long as the points moved, it meant that the two of them were still safe and sound. Just a moment ago he discovered that Hong Zhuang's points had suddenly increased rapidly, and there was a huge gap between her and Beichen. He went to rob others of their points. Bailey Hong Zhuang raised her eyebrows, a sly look on her face. As expected. Xiren shook his head. You are all bandits. Us? Bailey Hong Zhuang was confused. Yunju and Zhongli are both bandits. Bailey Hong Zhuang finally understood. She couldn't help but smile. Isn't that good? Save yourself the trouble. After Bai Luchuan realized that he couldn't find Zhong Yiluan, he sent people to collect points. Now the ranking could be roughly confirmed. When some cultivators felt hopeless, as long as they offered certain conditions, it was possible to get their points back. It wasn't easy for him to recover some points, but he had also paid a hefty price. Brother Bai, although these points can't be compared to the points accumulated by so many people, it's still not bad. As long as you add these points, your ranking will be able to surpass 2 people. Tomorrow will be the day when the competition will officially end. Although the difference in points between first and second place is relatively large, it's not impossible. Yun Xiaoman's eyes were filled with anticipation. Brother Bai, I believe you will definitely become first place. Hearing this, Bai Luchuan smiled and nodded. Although he had wasted a lot of resources this time, as long as he became first place, whether it was the reward or glory, it was not something that could be compared to these. Chapter 66-47. Look, the points have changed. Bai Liuchuan's ranking has changed from 5th to 3rd. I saw him earlier. I'm afraid he's still unwilling to give up, so he's taking advantage of the last bit of time to hunt some monsters? Such an increase in points is too shocking. There's still one more night. Perhaps his points will rise again tomorrow? The cultivators discussed. As long as the competition was not over, there was still a possibility of the rankings changing. No one could be sure of the outcome until the last moment. However, most of the people present were smart. Seeing the sudden increase in points, they knew without thinking that it was impossible for them to have obtained it from killing monsters. In the depths of the Demon Slaughter Mountain range, encountering some extremely ferocious monsters might increase the points at an extremely fast speed. However, in the periphery, almost all the monsters that could be killed had been dealt with. There was only one way for Bai Luchuan to obtain so many points in a short period of time. Bailey Hong Zhuang turned her gaze after hearing the discussions around her. Noticing the change in the rankings, she could not help but say, Bai Luchuan really spent a lot of effort this time. To collect so many points in such a short period of time, the price he paid is probably not small. Zhongli Mu's expression turned ugly when he noticed that his ranking had been surpassed. This Bai Luchuan is too despicable. He actually used such a method to surpass me. Hong Zhuang, there's still one more night. Will his points surpass yours? Shangguan Yingying revealed a worried expression. Originally, everything was in the bag, but she never expected such a sudden change. Her heart also became uncertain. Bailey Hong Zhuang observed the difference in strength between them and shook her head with a faint smile. Don't worry. His points will definitely not surpass Beichen and me. Even if his methods are not simple, the cultivation resources he has spent from the beginning of the competition until now is already astonishing. He is only the city lord's nephew, not the city lord's son. His financial resources are ultimately limited. Up until now, the gap between Bai Luchuan and her points was too large. Unless he took away all the points of everyone on the rankings, it was impossible. The top 10 would all receive glory and rewards. If it were any other cultivator, they would definitely not be willing to give up. Even if Bai Luchuan offered very tempting conditions, the average person wouldn't be moved. Most importantly, most of the people in the top 10 were their people. Xiren, show me your points, Bailey Hong Zhuang suddenly said. Oh. When Xiren immediately gave his identity to Bailey Hong Zhuang. After Bailey Hong Zhuang looked at everyone's points, a plan immediately formed in her mind. This time, how about we make a name for ourselves together? As the woman's voice fell, a trace of doubt surfaced in the eyes of Wen Xiren and the rest. Hong Zhuang, every time I see this expression on your face, I know that you must have a plan. Shengguan Yingying chuckled. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded and blinked. You've always known me well. Look, our total points added together is very shocking. Chapter 66-48. In fact, the ranking board only showed the top 10. 7 of the top 10 were numbered and no one knew who the real people were. This kind of thing had already defied common sense. The remaining 3 true name cultivators were all very famous cultivators in their daily lives. The names on the ranking board were so clear, but everyone couldn't help but think that it was fake because it was too unbelievable. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Fortunately, they had the booklet that Gong Jun brought. If they had been hunting monsters outside, they definitely wouldn't have so many points. However, the maze was really the best place to obtain points. Although the time and energy spent killing monsters was much more than outside, the return of points could be said to be very satisfactory. This was also the reason why Bai Qingli could obtain first place for several years in a row. Ordinary cultivators wouldn't dare to go there to train. When Di Xiaofeng and the others heard Bailey Hongzhuang's suggestion, they only felt that this idea was too crazy. However, thinking about it carefully, this was really a bold and feasible decision. If we do this, wouldn't it be too high profile? Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but ask. Because of Bai Luchuan, they were already very famous. If they took all the top 10 spots, it would be too exaggerated. They would probably be targeted very soon. I think this is very good. How domineering. Zhong Limu's face was full of anticipation. Usually there are too few people who find trouble with me. If someone really does find trouble with me, whether it's cultivation resources or battle experience, it's all a gain for me. In the face of Zhong Limu's high spirits, Bailey Yunyan directly ignored his thoughts. This guy was definitely a battle maniac. Gong Jun also said with both hands in agreement, as long as we distribute the points, we will definitely be able to occupy the top 10. In this demon slaughter competition, the rewards for the top 3 are the most generous, but the rewards for the remaining 7 aren't bad either. These cultivation resources will definitely help you improve your cultivation. Even if you need them, it's also very good to sell them. Di Xiaofeng chuckled. Beichen's newbie little brother really cared about benefits at all times. It would be strange if this guy didn't make money from his business. I agree too. This is pretty good, Ling suddenly said. Agreed. Mo Yunjue replied. Since everyone agrees, let's do it. Di Beichen's voice sounded. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She planned to go and get the illusion form pearl for Xiaohe and Xiaobai. After all, it was in another city. If it wasn't suitable for them to stay here, they could just move to another city. Even though there was a slight difference in the strength of the cultivators in each city with their current strength, it would not be a problem for them to enter a few cities. Then shall we split the points now? When Xiren said excitedly. Not to mention anything else, just the thought of them being in the top 10 made him very excited. No. No. Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue objected in unison. Xiren was slightly startled. What's wrong? There's still 1 day left. Let's hold back for now and wait for changes. We'll do this when it's almost over. At that time, Bai Luchuan will definitely be caught off guard. Chapter 66-49. Let's go. We shouldn't stay here, lest we attract too much attention. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. At present, there were many cultivators hunting demonic beasts in the vicinity, especially those who were ranked at the top. They all wanted to take advantage of this last opportunity to climb into the top 10. Hongzhuang, I see that your aura is a bit weak. Are you injured? Shengguan Ying looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. At first, she felt that Hongzhuang's complexion was a bit weaker than usual. Now that she looked more carefully, she was even more certain. We encountered an extremely powerful monster earlier and fought a great battle. We suffered some injuries, but it's nothing serious. We just need some time to recover. Hearing that, Bai Lianche said in surprise, there was such a powerful monster in the maze that you and brother-in-law were seriously injured? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That monster was extremely powerful. Even though Beichen and I used all our means, we were still seriously injured by its self-destruction. It's good that you're fine. The two of you are very lucky, Di Xiaofeng said with relief. Gong Jun, have you heard of the illusion bead? Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Gong Jun. Among them, Gong Jun had stayed in the realm of chaotic immortals the longest. Perhaps he would know something about it. Illusion bead? Gong Jun nodded. I've heard of it. It's very rare. I heard that Qingyang City's lord has one in his hands. How do you think we can get it from him? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was full of concern. This thing could be said to be the thing she wanted the most right now. Gong Jun looked thoughtful. I've only heard of the illusion bead before. As for where it is, I didn't pay too much attention. Since the city lord of Qingyang City has it, I'll find a way to find out about it after we get out. How about it? All right. This night was destined to be the most restless night in Cloud City. Even though it was already late at night, no one felt sleepy at all. They kept staring at the changes on the ranking board. Most of the discussions were about the identities of the numbered cultivators. Even though the competition was about to end, they were still completely unaware of the true identities of these people. They were simply too curious. Bai Luchuan kept sending people to help collect points. However, he couldn't do such a thing on a grand scale to prevent others from spreading it. It would be very unpleasant. Under such circumstances, although his points kept rising, the extent of the increase was limited. Most importantly, his cultivation resources were constantly being used up. If this continued, even with his wealth, he would be in a deficit. I'm still quite far away from first place. No matter what, I have to catch up. Bai Luochuan's eyes revealed a hint of ruthlessness. He really didn't want to wait another year. Young master, we've already done our best. We'll definitely make up for the points. Zhong Yiluan still hasn't been found. No, that guy seemed to have disappeared into thin air. There was no trace of him at all. Damn it. Bai Luchuan cursed. Does that guy dare to betray me? Young master, Zhong Yiluan has been doing his best for us for the past few years. He shouldn't dare to be disloyal. Do you think he might have been killed? Chapter 6650. City Lord's Mansion. As Bai Qingli's injuries gradually recovered, his mind kept recalling what Bailey Hongzhuang had said to him. He had already understood the situation of this woman coming to Xiyun City. Judging from the time, he was certain that Bailey Hongzhuang had never seen him before. He never thought that Bai Luchuan would plot against him behind his back, but for some reason, when he thought of the woman's indifferent and casual manner without any intention of instigating him, he felt that what she said was very likely true. Wasn't it too laughable that the cousin he had always trusted treated him like this? Young master, there's news about the matter you sent me to investigate. A black-clothed man appeared in front of Bai Qingli. Speak. Bai Qingli's expression was cold, and his voice did not waver at all. The man looked at Bai Qingli's cold appearance and his heart trembled slightly. Ever since he began following the young master, he had rarely seen such an expression on his face. According to the young master's description, we have already confirmed the identities of the 3 assassins. We have investigated everywhere and found that they have indeed come into contact with young Master Luchuan. However, we have yet to find any concrete evidence to prove that it was young Master Luchuan who did it. I understand. Bai Qingli nodded slightly. Other than that, do you have any information about the matter of purchasing points? Master, there is indeed such a matter. The man said respectfully, a few years ago young Master Luchuan sent people to collect points. In the past few years, young Master Luochuan's results on the rankings were all fake. It was not his true strength. Hearing this, Bai Qingli chuckled. He's just a relative of my city lord's mansion. He was actually so arrogant when participating in the demon-slaying competition. It was clearly a competition in the city, but it was as if it was his competition. Isn't it laughable? The man did not say anything, but his heart was filled with apprehension. Even if they did not find any irrefutable evidence about the assassins, he believed that the young master knew that this matter was probably related to young Master Luchuan. In fact, he had reminded the young master of this point in the past, but the young master had never believed it and had never taken it to heart. This time, for some reason, he began to investigate this matter after returning. However, this made him feel at ease. As a cultivator, it was best to cultivate peacefully, but he also had to be careful of the people around him. You may leave. Bai Qingli said, don't tell anyone about this and don't let anyone discover any clues. Yes. The next day, Bai Luchuan looked at the points on his identity card and immediately revealed a look of joy. After paying such a high price, I finally caught up with the points of the first place. I wonder if the points of the first place increased after we left yesterday? Yun Xiaoman looked at Bai Luochuan's points and said with a smile, Brother Bai, your current points are already a few thousand points higher than yesterday's first place. Even if that guy's strength is not bad, it's impossible for him to get so many points in a day. Bai Luchuan revealed a comfortable smile. That's right. It's impossible for that fellow to increase his points by so much. First place will definitely be mine. I'll congratulate Big Brother Bai first. Yun Xiaoman happily said. Chapter 6651. Looking at Bai Luochuan's concerned look, Yun Xiaoman's cheeks flushed red. She said with a smile, Brother Bai, I know you've always been a person who values relationships and righteousness. With you around, I'm relieved. Hearing this, Bai Luchuan gave Yun Xiaoman a deep look. The smile in his eyes deepened. Don't worry. Follow me when we return. I'll take good care of you. Thank you, Brother Bai, Yun Xiaoman said with a smile. As it was getting closer and closer to noon, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also returned to the ranking list. Seeing that Bai Luchuan had jumped to second place on the list, a hint of understanding appeared in everyone's eyes. Bai Luchuan probably thought that our points wouldn't increase by much, so he kept calculating according to the previous points. He didn't expect me to take all of Zhong Yiluan's points. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. If Bai Luchuan knew that all the points he had painstakingly accumulated had landed in her hands, his expression would definitely be very interesting. She was also looking forward to it. It's about time. Let's divide the points. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully looked at the points above. She didn't need to say anything else, but the first 3 places were a must. Little Xuanzi and Little Blossom directly handed over all their points. Anyway, we can only see the top 10. As long as you can take all of these rankings, that would be excellent. Yes. I'll hand over my points too. Gong Jun also handed over his identity card. Anyway, these points are useless to me. Hearing this, no one was pretentious. After all, they were all together. When they received the cultivation resources, they would distribute them. Look, the ranking suddenly changed. Why did the top 10 suddenly become numbered? It wasn't easy for Bai Luchuan to become second place. In the blink of an eye, he became outside of the top 10. Isn't this too shocking? The sudden change attracted everyone's attention. Such a huge change happened before the end of the competition, and it directly squeezed Bai Luchuan and company down. This was something no one had expected. Everyone looked at each other and understood that these points were definitely not obtained by them. However, this kind of thing happened almost every time, so everyone was well aware of it. Such a method might seem simple, but it was practically impossible to accomplish. Even after thinking through the entire Xiyun city, they couldn't think of anyone who could do such a thing. Even Bai Luchuan had been defeated. Who else could do it? Bai Luchuan excitedly walked to the front of the ranking board. He realized that from the moment he appeared, everyone was looking at him strangely. He couldn't help but find it amusing. Come to think of it, it must be because he had taken first place, so everyone was surprised. It only took one night to catch up with such a big gap, so it was natural for everyone to have such a reaction. Young master, the ranking board. At that moment, the man beside Bai Luchuan immediately widened his eyes when he noticed the change in the rankings. His face was filled with horror. They had only been away for a day. What had happened? Chapter 66-52. Brother Bai, there must be a problem with the ranking list. Otherwise, how could it become like this? Yun Xiaoman looked at the ranking list in disbelief. In just a short day, Brother Bai's points had clearly increased by a lot, but now he wasn't even in the top 10? She had also observed the points on the ranking list. Other than the first and second place having high points, the others' points were about the same. It was normal for there to be changes. However, with Brother Bai's points, it was impossible for him to suddenly disappear from the top 10. This is impossible. Bai Luchuan couldn't help but rub his eyes. When he looked at the ranking list again, he realized that there was still no change. It was all serial numbers and his name wasn't there at all. Look, Bai Luchuan is here. Judging from his expression, he probably doesn't believe that all of this is true, right? It's obvious. He was already second place before, but he suddenly became outside the top 10. If this result is confirmed, then he will lose a lot of face this time. The competition is about to end. I think it's almost impossible for him to change all of this. Bai Luchuan's expression was extremely ugly to begin with. After hearing the discussions around him, his expression turned even uglier. These damn fellows actually dared to ridicule him now? Young master, what should we do now? Bai Luchuan looked at his points and compared them to the points on the ranking list. He said angrily, find someone with very high points. It's best if he's in the top 10. As long as we add his points, it should be enough. Young master, any cultivator who can obtain such a ranking is quite powerful. It's very difficult to bribe them, the man said awkwardly. I know it's very difficult, but is there any other way? Bai Luchuan cursed. No matter what conditions the other party proposes, as long as they don't exceed what I can bear, I'll agree to them. Hearing this, the man's expression became even more troubled. Young master, in order to buy these points, we have already given out all the resources we can use. If we still do this now, then the remaining resources won't be enough. Even if you obtain the reward for first place, you will still suffer a heavy loss. Bai Luchuan's heart skipped a beat. He also understood that he had already paid too much for this demon-slaying competition. Just to obtain these points yesterday, the price he had paid was astonishing. If he wanted to make up for such a gap, he could imagine the price he had to pay. So what if we suffered heavy losses? At the very least, he would be able to gain some reputation. But if we give up just like that, then all our previous efforts will have been for naught. Hearing Bai Luchuan's roar, a look of panic appeared on the man's face. He nodded repeatedly and said, "All right, I'll go now. I'll go now. Look, the city lord is here. Bai Qingli is also here." Looking at his appearance, his injuries should have already recovered. It's a pity that Bai Qingli withdrew from the competition. Otherwise the rankings wouldn't be like this. City Lord Bai Ziyuan walked over with Bai Qingli, and the originally noisy environment suddenly quieted down. Gazes of respect fell on the two of them. When Bai Luchuan saw Bai Ziyuan appear, he restrained his previous temper. He respectfully walked to Bai Ziyuan's side and bowed. "Greetings, uncle." Chapter 66-53. Upon hearing Bai Ziyuan's concerned question, Bai Liuchuan's expression turned extremely ugly. He looked like he was in a difficult position, as though he found it difficult to speak. "Uncle, the situation this time is really a little strange." Bai Ziyuan slowly walked forward. The situation on the ranking board fell into his eyes. At that instant, even he couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise. He had always paid attention to the situation on the ranking board, but he had always heard that Bai Liuchuan's name was firmly in the top 10. He never expected it to disappear. "There's nothing strange about that. Perhaps the cultivators this time are very strong," Bai Qingli said slowly. Bai Luchuan looked at Bai Qingli in surprise and said, "Brother, you can't say that. Look, all of them are cultivators using numbered identity cards. We know very well what the situation was in the past. It's too strange for such a situation to suddenly happen. Perhaps they didn't have enough time, so they received such identity cards. Since such a situation is usually allowed, this isn't considered a violation." Bai Qingli's expression was calm. "Nowadays, cultivators are getting stronger and stronger. I've also realized this. There's really no limit to how strong one can be." Looking at Bai Qingli's sigh, Bai Luchuan cursed inwardly for being an idiot. This fellow had always only paid attention to his cultivation. He had never been sad about anything else. In such a situation, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that there was a problem, but he didn't care about it. It was no different from playing the lute to a cow. The ranking this time is indeed a little strange. Bai Ziyuan sized up the ranking board. "There's actually no one familiar in the top 10. I'm very curious as to who these cultivators who use numbered identity cards are. Uncle, I suspect that these people are from other cities. They want to use this opportunity to obtain cultivation resources. Wouldn't it be a pity if they succeed?" Bai Luchuan said indignantly. Bai Ziyuan was very indifferent. "This demon-slaying competition is a competition held in every city. It's not against the rules for any cultivator to participate. When the rewards are distributed later, I'll be able to understand those youths when I see them. As long as their strength doesn't exceed the limit by too much, it's within the range." Upon hearing that, no matter how indignant Bai Luchuan was, he could only swallow all of this. Damn it. He had to figure out who these people were. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed on Bai Qingli. She did not expect to see him again so soon. Bai Qingli also looked towards Bailey Hongzhuang, a smile appearing on his face as he nodded towards the woman in the distance. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips rose slightly as she nodded her head. Bai Ziyuan had already slowly walked towards the high platform. When Bai Luchuan noticed Bai Qingli nodding at Bailey Hongzhuang, he couldn't help but frown. "Big brother, do you know that woman?" Bai Qingli raised her eyebrows and asked indifferently, "Is there a problem?" "Don't be fooled by that woman's appearance. She is indeed a peerless beauty, but she is a poisonous poppy. The real person is not easy to get along with." A hint of viciousness appeared in Bai Liuchuan's eyes. "Her true identity is a poison master. One of my friends died at their hands. So that's how it is. She is actually a poison master?" Chapter 66-54. "However, brother, how do you know her?" Bai Luchuan asked tentatively. According to his understanding, his brother had always been in seclusion. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have had the chance to come into contact with Bailey Hongzhuang. "I just met her once when I participated in the competition," Bai Qingli said indifferently. "So that's how it is." Bai Luchuan was secretly alarmed. Bailey Hongzhuang and he were mortal enemies. She couldn't have secretly said something to Bai Qingli, right? "Did she say anything to you?" "This woman isn't simple. Guanyi died at her hands. I heard that her methods of sowing discord are also very impressive. Brother, you mustn't believe what she says." Bai Luchuan had a sincere look on his face. He looked like a sincere subordinate who was only worried that his brother would be in danger. If it was before the investigation, Bai Qingli might have really believed it. However, now that he knew Bai Liuchuan's true colors, the more he said it, the more it meant that there was a problem with him. She didn't say anything. It was just a one-time encounter. She doesn't even know who I am. Seeing Bai Qingli's calm appearance, Bai Liuchuan was relieved. From the looks of it, his brother probably didn't know anything. Brother, the results are about to be announced. You should go to the platform as well. All right. After Bai Qingli left, the man who followed Bai Liuchuan walked over and said, Young master, it's already too late. What should we do? There's only one way left. Bai Liuchuan narrowed his eyes. These people's points increased so much on the last day. It's obvious that they didn't obtain the points themselves. When the time comes, I'll raise this doubt. No matter what, I have to make everyone doubt this result. Only then would everyone not be disappointed by his results and not use this point to make an issue out of it in the future. Go find a few people and get them to spread the news of fake points. Be careful not to be discovered. Don't worry, young master. I'll definitely settle this matter properly. As City Lord Bai Ziyuan stood on the high platform, everyone present quieted down. The annual Demon Slaughter competition has ended. The demons in the Demon Slaughter mountain range have been suppressed. Regardless of the results of everyone present, all of you have contributed to Cloud City. Papa, loud applause resounded in all directions. Everyone's eyes were filled with respect and admiration as they looked at the noble and imposing figure on the stage. I believe everyone has already noticed that the top 10 this time are very special. They are all numbered. Everyone chuckled when they heard that. They didn't even know who these people were. No matter what, I have to congratulate the top 10 cultivators who used numbers to replace their identities. You have won the top 10 of the Demon Slaughter competition and will be rewarded by the City Lord's mansion. Next, let's invite number 001, 002, 003, 004, 10 cultivators onto the high platform so that everyone can see your true faces. Bai Ziyuan read out the 10 numbers with great interest. Even he felt that these people must be related to each other. Otherwise, these numbers were too coincidental. Following Bai Ziyuan's words, almost everyone looked around wanting to know who the top 10 were. Chapter 66-55. Di Baichen and the others looked at each other and smiled. Then they slowly walked towards the high platform. In this situation where almost everyone stopped moving, the movements of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were immediately noticed by everyone. For a moment, one thought after another appeared in everyone's minds. Could it be that the people on the ranking list are them? This Bailey Hongzhuang is from our Shiyun city and not from other cities. I heard that because of Guan Yi, Bailey Hongzhuang offended by Liuchuan and was directly driven away on the day of receiving the identity card. She must have had no choice but to take the numbered identity card. The moment everyone saw Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, all the doubts in their hearts dissipated. This grudge caused quite a stir in the city. After all, shopkeeper Guan had previously invited all the pharmacists in the city away. This matter caused an uproar and made everyone understand that this seemingly young Bailey Hongzhuang's poisoning method was not simple. All the pharmacists in the city were unable to solve it, which meant that once they offended her, it was equivalent to a dead end. Previously in the Demon Slaughtering Mountain Range, everyone clearly saw the conflict between Bai Liuchuan and Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. If it wasn't for the sudden appearance of helpers, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen would have fallen by now. After seeing this scene, Yun Xiaoman's eyes also changed and her face instantly became abnormally ugly. Brother Bai, could it be that the cultivators on the ranking list are really them? How could these guys have such ability? Bai Liuchuan's face was ashen. He couldn't believe that this was true. Although their strength is not bad, they have just arrived in Shiyun City and their methods are not outstanding. It is impossible for them to obtain so many points. Hearing this, Yun Xiaoman's gaze was somewhat complicated. She also didn't want to believe that all this was true. However, all these doubts and certainty became a joke when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stepped onto the stage. A trace of surprise flashed across Bai Ziyuan's brows, and then a smile appeared on his face. I didn't expect that the top 10 on the ranking list this time are all unfamiliar faces and so young. My Shiyun city is indeed full of talents. Thank you for your praise, Mayor. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others cupped their hands and bowed. Whether it was when they first met at the start of the competition or now, the city lord's attitude made them feel very comfortable. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up Bai Ziyuan. It turned out that the city lord's personality was more like Bai Qingli's and not like Bai Liuchuan's scheming. This was somewhat unexpected. Being able to achieve such results at such a young age is enough to prove that you are favored by the heavens. However, before I reward you, I still have to ask you a question. Mayor, please ask. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked more serious. Are you from Shiyun City? Reporting to the city lord, we are indeed from Shiyun City. Bai Ziyuan nodded slightly. If that's the case, why are you using such an identity card? It's not impossible to use a numbered identity card. It's just that receiving an identity card is a very easy matter. Today's situation has never happened in my Shiyun City. It's really too absurd? Chapter 66-56. Shiyun City was the closest city to the abandoned immortal forest. The cultivators who came here were often not strong enough. The closer a city was to the immortal region, the stronger the cultivators inside. He understood the strength of Shiyun City and did not take it to heart. After all, from the moment he became the city lord, he was already very clear about the situation in Shiyun City. Even so, he still hoped that more talented people would appear. Every year's demon slaughter competition was an excellent opportunity to perform. In the past few years, some familiar faces would often appear in the top 10. It was very interesting that he had not seen any of the top 10 this year. If not for the numbered identity card, he would have been even happier. As Bai Ziyuan's voice fell, the gazes of everyone present became strange. Bai Luchuan could not help but feel anxious. He did not wish for Bailey Hongzhuang to expose this matter. If that happened, his image in his uncle's heart would definitely be greatly reduced. However, in the current situation, he could not stop it even if he wanted to. City Lord, if I tell you the truth, I hope you won't be angry, Di Beichen said slowly. Hearing this, Bai Ziyuan revealed a faint smile. There's no harm in saying it. Previously, when we were receiving the identity cards, we were judged to be unqualified. We had no choice but to use the numbered identity cards. Di Beichen's face was calm. Under everyone's gazes, he was not afraid at all. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others knew very well that if such words were said in private, the other party might be displeased. However, in front of so many people, even if he was displeased, he would definitely not show it. Bai Ziyuan gradually frowned. There was a trace of doubt in his deep eyes. Unqualified? Why not? This is also what we want to know. Di Beichen's words without an answer seemed to have a deeper meaning. Even an idiot would know that there was definitely a problem. For a moment, everyone's gaze involuntarily fell on Bai Luchuan. Wasn't this done by Bai Luchuan? However, he would never have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would obtain first place. Furthermore, he had even mentioned this matter in front of the city lord. Bai Ziyuan noticed everyone's gaze and his eyes gradually darkened. However, a smile appeared on his face again. When I return, I will definitely investigate this matter and give everyone an explanation. Thank you, city lord. Bai Liuchuan's heart trembled when he noticed the city lord's gaze. He was afraid that this matter could not be concealed. He knew very well that his uncle had always valued the demon slaughter competition and hated such actions. When he returned, he would definitely be punished. Since the biggest mystery has been solved, Bai Luchuan, Liuchuan's Bai Ziyuan, the city lord, and the city lord, the Luchuan. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a smile, her eyes unconsciously falling on Bai Qingli's body. This father and son both had such personalities, it was really rare. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze, Bai Qingli returned the smile. This scene naturally did not escape Bai Ziyuan's eyes. When he realized that his son, who had always been cold and indifferent to others, was actually smiling at a woman, he was secretly surprised. What the hell is going on? Chapter 66-57. Just as Bai Ziyuan was about to award the reward, a voice sounded, attracting everyone's attention. No. Everyone subconsciously looked at the source of the voice and realized that the person who had stopped him was Bai Luchuan. Luchuan, what are you doing? Bai Qingli looked at Bai Luchuan in puzzlement. Do you know what time it is? Although Bai Ziyuan didn't say a word, his face revealed his displeasure. I know what time it is. It's precisely because of this that I want to take advantage of this opportunity to stop all of this. A determined look appeared in Bai Liuchuan's eyes as he steadily walked up the platform. City Lord, this ranking is suspected of cheating. If we don't investigate this matter thoroughly, I'm afraid no one will be able to accept it. As soon as these words were said, many cultivators below the platform echoed. That's right. These points are clearly fake. How can we give the rewards to these cheaters? If we can obtain first place by cheating, then we can all cheat in the future. Why waste so much time? We must investigate this matter thoroughly and give everyone justice. Yun Xiaoman and company were also mixed in with the crowd. They had already arranged for many people to spread such rumors. Furthermore, the sudden change in the points of Bailey Hongzhuang and company had already attracted the attention of many people. Everyone knew very well that there was definitely something wrong with the points. Now that it was mentioned, it naturally attracted a lot of attention. Damn it, this fellow really knows how to cause trouble. Xiron narrowed his eyes, which were filled with disgust. Originally, this matter had happened unexpectedly smoothly. He had thought that they were lucky to have met a good city lord, but he never expected Bai Luchuan to be such a restless fellow. Even now he still refused to give up. Bai Ziyuan put down his hand that was about to take the reward and his gaze landed on Bai Luchuan. What do you mean by that? City lord, just a day ago my name and 2 other people's names were still on the ranking list. I was even ranked second. However, in just a short day so many people have directly surpassed my points and occupied all the top 10 positions. Isn't this too strange? Bai Luchuan recounted the previous situation. He had long made up his mind. Even if he said that, he might not be able to change the outcome. However, as long as he could make the outcome suspicious, it was enough. As a result, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would inevitably end up with an unjustified result, and they would also lose face. After hearing Bai Liuchuan's words, Bai Ziyuan turned his gaze to his subordinate. His subordinate also whispered a few words into his ear. His expression gradually turned solemn. City Lord, there is indeed a problem with the rankings this time. I hope you can make a decision. We absolutely cannot accept such an outcome. Wave after wave of voices rang out. When Bai Luchuan noticed Bai Ziyuan's expression, he knew that there was a chance. He spoke even more impolitely. City Lord, if it weren't for their tricks, my points would definitely be first. Bai Luchuan said. He was already number 2. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were defeated, he would be the undisputed number 1. Chapter 66-58. After pondering for a moment, Bai Ziyuan turned his gaze to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. What explanation do you have for the point that everyone is objecting to? Although it was an inquiring tone, there was a hint of seriousness in it compared to before. The city lord's aura was completely revealed. The atmosphere in the entire venue seemed to have frozen. Even the people who were still discussing below the stage shut their mouths and didn't dare to say anything else. However, in the face of Bai Ziyuan's words, Di Beichen remained indifferent, as if he didn't notice the seriousness in it at all. There must be a reason for everything that exists. There are more than 1 or 2 people who cheat in this point competition. There should be many people present who do the same. As Di Beichen's words fell, everyone couldn't help but sigh. Under such circumstances, anyone would think of a way to cover it up or explain it, right? Di Beichen, on the other hand, suddenly said such words. Wasn't that equivalent to directly admitting it? Bai Luchuan also looked at Di Beichen in surprise. Apart from being surprised, he was also happy. This fellow was really an idiot. Originally, he couldn't produce conclusive evidence, but now this fellow had directly admitted it. In this way, everything she said became irrefutable evidence. Bai Ziyuan's expression also darkened, and his voice became deeper. In that case, you admit that your points were obtained by cheating? Di Beichen smiled faintly. Doesn't the city lord think that this is also a kind of strength? What a fallacy. Bai Luchuan sneered. I think you're completely talking nonsense. How can you say that cheating is so natural? Looking at Bai Liuchuan's smug and self-proclaimed righteous appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes revealed a trace of a sneer. This fellow's ability to make a false accusation was simply astonishing. Young Master Bai, this is only our first time participating in the demon-slaying competition. We learned the method of cheating from you. Isn't it too funny to put on such a sanctimonious appearance now? Bai Liuchuan's expression changed. What nonsense are you talking about? Since young Master Bai has taken the initiative to reveal this matter today, I don't mind explaining it more clearly. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. They had originally come for the rewards of the demon-slaying competition, but for some reason she felt that it was more interesting to expose Bai Liuchuan's true colors in front of everyone. When we first entered the demon-slaying mountain range, we were forcefully pulled to join the team. According to them, they specially participated in the demon-slaying competition for you, Bai. Every year, the points they earn will be handed over to you, and you will give them a certain amount of remuneration. You're full of nonsense. Just because you were exposed, you put all the blame on me? How shameless. Bai Liuchuan's face was ashen as he loudly questioned Bailey Hongzhuang. Do you have any evidence for everything you said? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. What I said is the truth. What evidence do I need? I believe that with the City Lord's means, it won't be difficult to find out all of this. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix-like eyes turned slightly as she looked at Bai Ziyuan with a smile. It was time for Bai Luchuan to take off the mask he had been wearing for so long. City Lord, everything she said is not true. I don't need to do this at all, Bai Luchuan hurriedly said. Chapter 66-59. Bai Ziyuan's calm gaze swept across Bai Liuchuan's face. The latter immediately felt a chill in his heart as the ominous premonition intensified. He was already extremely regretful. If he had known that this would happen, he would have killed Bailey Hongzhuang and company no matter the price he had to pay. If Bailey Hongzhuang had angrily accused him, it might not have shaken his uncle's trust in him. But she was so indifferent. Everything was irrefutable. On the contrary, it was even more convincing. However, the most important thing now was to get rid of all of this. As for the rest, he would speed up the process when he returned. As long as he could shut those fellows up, he might be able to avoid this calamity. Qingli, what do you think? Bai Ziyuan turned his head to look at Bai Qingli. His stern expression softened a little. Bai Qingli looked at the anxious Bai Luchuan and the calm Bailey Hongzhuang and company and slowly said, Father, I think what this young master said is not without reason. No matter what method they used, being able to obtain first place in this point competition is a form of strength. Otherwise, why would they be the only one to obtain first place out of all the people present? Brother, how can you say that? Bai Luchuan looked at Bai Qingli in astonishment. He never expected him to say such a thing. Luchuan, what I said is the truth. What's the problem? But brother, the points you obtained in the past were all obtained by yourself. You have never used any other method. If they do this, it's unfair to you. Bai Qingli smiled faintly and shook his head. The reason I did this is because of my own choice. I also know that others will use other methods to obtain points. In the end, this is a method to obtain points. Everyone uses different methods. Looking at Bai Qingli's calm appearance, Bai Luchuan felt a mouthful of blood in his heart. No matter what happened, his brother would always have an indifferent look. It was simply infuriating. Let's not talk about anything else. Such a situation will indeed happen in this competition. However, they have gone too far this time. This will make everyone unhappy, Bai Luchuan said. At this moment, another man stood up and said, City Lord, their points are too fake. This will chill our hearts. I hope the City Lord can judge clearly. I hope the City Lord can judge clearly. The City Lord is wise. In an instant, everyone present began to shout out loud. Their momentum was so great that it was as if they would not accept the City Lord's decision if he did not change the outcome. This was the first time that such a situation had happened in the history of the demon slaughter competition. Bai Ziyuan looked at the extremely chaotic scene, but his calm expression was not affected by it. It was as if the protests in front of him did not exist. His heartbeat was as still as water. Was admirable. Everyone please calm down. A low and majestic voice sounded, instantly suppressing the voices of protest. Luchuan. Bai Ziyuan smiled faintly. If that's the case, we can only recalculate the points. The moment that was said, Bai Luchuan and company revealed looks of puzzlement. They didn't understand what he meant. Chapter 66-60. Hold a new demon slaughter competition. When this thought appeared in everyone's minds, they couldn't help but frown. After this, everyone was already physically and mentally exhausted. Even though their cultivation wasn't weak, dealing with these monsters in this environment where dark energy lingered all day was really unpleasant. Moreover, many of the monsters had already been dealt with. Once they started again, they would definitely have to go deeper. At that time, the injuries on their bodies would probably worsen again. For a moment, everyone couldn't help but feel even more depressed. This result wasn't what they wanted. At this moment, the City Lord's calm voice sounded again. I've already heard that there's a problem with the points in this demon slaughter competition, so I've already thought of a way to recalculate the points. Any points that aren't obtained by oneself will be directly deducted. In this way, everyone's points will be the real points obtained by oneself. As the City Lord's voice fell, everyone's faces were filled with surprise. No one had expected that the City Lord had already thought of a way to deal with it. If they hadn't mentioned it, who knew what the outcome would have been? When Bai Luchuan heard this, he couldn't help but be stunned. He had never thought that the City Lord would make such a preparation. This method. He had never heard the City Lord mention it before. When did he prepare this? According to his original intention, he only wanted to question the results this time and make the reputation of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others unstable. However, once all the points were recalculated, there was no need to mention the fake points of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, but what about his points? Brother Bai, if we recalculate then your points? Yun Xiaoman looked at Bai Luchuan worriedly. Ever since Guan Yi's death she had been following Bai Luchuan, so she knew his points very well. Even though he had also obtained a lot of points, the points that he had collected were also quite a lot. Bai Luchuan's expression also became extremely ugly. When he thought of his previous threat, he felt as if a slap had landed on his face. It was burning with pain. City Lord, is what you said true? In the crowd, a question could not help but sound out. Bai Ziyuan laughed heartily. Of course it's true. From now on, the demon slaughter competition will be fairer. All methods will be eliminated. The points can only belong to the cultivators themselves. All of a sudden, cheers came from the crowd. In Xi'an City, there were very few cultivators with power and influence like Bai Luchuan. They could only rely on their own strength. Under such circumstances, they were completely incomparable to Bai Luchuan and company. However, with the change of the points rules, it meant that they would have a day of success. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes couldn't help but fall on Bai Qingli's body. She had a feeling that this method should be proposed by Bai Qingli. It had been a while since he withdrew from the demon-slaying competition, and he expected that Xiao Hei's words had undoubtedly made him suspicious of Bai Luchuan. Once he used this method, all of his tricks would be exposed. It was indeed a good plan. What a pity. Originally, the top 10 rewards would have been ours. Chapter 66-61. Actually, there's nothing to pity. I feel that even if Di Beichen and company were to remove the other points, the results would definitely not be bad. Shengguan Yingying had a look of confidence. It was indeed difficult to calculate the points on the rankings. However, based on the previous situation, even if they were to remove these points, there would still be quite a number of them on the rankings. Zhongli Mu said in high spirits, I think this is quite good. Otherwise, Bai Luchuan will inevitably find trouble with us. Why don't we let him lose wholeheartedly? Indeed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I also want to know what our true ranking will be. Bai Qingli also stood up. His handsome and elegant face had a faint smile like a breeze. We originally wanted to ask for everyone's opinion on this matter. We happened to realize that everyone had many questions about this, so we took this opportunity to reform it. We will continue to implement it in the future. Everyone nodded. This was the most fair and just decision. No one would object. Bai Luchuan couldn't help but feel anxious. When he thought of what he had said previously, he really wished he could slap himself to death. If he had known that this would happen, he wouldn't have said such words no matter what. However, under everyone's watchful eyes, he couldn't find any other way to change it even if he wanted to. Brother, can I not change my points? Bai Luchuan sent a voice transmission to Bai Qingli. Bai Qingli was the only one who could save him from his predicament. Di Beichen and company aren't good people. Because they cheated, I couldn't take it lying down, so I bought some points. If I'm exposed in front of everyone, then I'll lose all my face. Seeing Bai Luchuan's anxious look for help, Bai Qingli remained calm and collected. She looked cultured and elegant, and her tone was filled with sincerity. Luchuan, since this matter was pushed by father, if everyone changes except you, once it's discovered, where will father's face go? Brother? Bai Luchuan was somewhat anxious. This brother of his couldn't be reasoned with no matter what. It was simply infuriating. There's no need to say anything else. It definitely won't work this time. Bai Qingli rejected him without hesitation. Luchuan, your strength has always been outstanding. Even if the matter of points is investigated, you should believe in your own strength. Upon hearing this, Bai Luchuan shut his mouth. Thinking about it carefully, what his brother said made sense. Brother Bai, I don't think you need to worry. Even if the matter of buying points is exposed, you can completely blame it on Di Beichen and company. You've been doing your best to kill monsters during the competition. I believe that even after deducting your points, you're still worthy of being first place. Bai Luchuan's gaze turned gentle. You're right, Bai Qingli. The people of the city lord's mansion quickly took back the identity tokens of each cultivator and began to recalculate the points. To Luchuan, Luchuan. Of course, Luchuan to Liuchuans of the Luchuan. Chapter 66-62. Bai Qingli gave Bailey Hongzhuang a deep look. His eyes were complicated and apologetic. "Miss, I'm really sorry for hiding my identity earlier." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her exquisite face became even more beautiful. "Sir Bai, you wanted to tell me your identity earlier, but I stopped you. To be honest, you didn't mean to hide it." Bai Qingli saw that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even have the slightest idea about this, and her heart felt even more guilty. Compared to the other party's magnanimity as a man, he wasn't magnanimous enough. "This matter is indeed my responsibility. However, what you said at that time had quite an impact on me. Coupled with the fact that I was being pursued, I didn't say it out loud. I'm grateful to you for saving my life from the bottom of my heart. I wonder if you regret saving me?" After much deliberation, Bai Qingli still asked the question in his heart. He clearly remembered that Bailey Hongzhuang had said that she didn't want him to be Bai Qingli, but he was. "I should have said earlier that I don't regret saving you. Although your identity is somewhat unexpected, I don't think you and Bai Luchuan are the same kind of people. He is him and you are you. There's no connection between them, so you don't have to take it to heart. If I really cared, I wouldn't have greeted you when I first saw you." Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was casual, and there was a trace of openness in her eyes. She really admired Bai Qingli, and she knew very well that he was different from Bai Luchuan. There was no need to mix them up. The troubles in Bai Qingli's heart quickly dissipated with Bailey Hongzhuang's words, and the smile on his face also brightened. "I didn't expect you to think so thoroughly. In comparison, I'm the one who's too narrow-minded. No matter what, I'm still very happy to meet you." "Me too." Apart from Di Baichen and Gong Jun, when Xiren and the others couldn't help but be surprised when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang chatting happily with the city lord's son. "When did Hongzhuang get to know Bai Qingli?" "I don't know. I've never heard her mention it before. She actually saved his life?" Bailey Yunyan's eyes widened. "Bai Luchuan and Bai Qingli. Isn't this interesting?" Di Xiaofeng and the others couldn't help but raise their eyebrows. Originally, they thought that after offending Bai Luchuan, it was equivalent to offending the city lord's mansion. Now, after offending Bai Luchuan, they saved Bai Qingli. It seemed like the situation had changed. "Madam is really a lucky star." Gong Jun smiled. "I think there's no need to be afraid of Bai Luchuan now." Smiles appeared on everyone's faces. They never thought that things would take such a turn in the end. It was really interesting. Even if Bai Qingli had an excellent relationship with Bai Luchuan, it was impossible for her to watch her younger brother target his savior. One was his son and the other was his nephew. There was no comparison between the two. After the points were recalculated, the rankings changed. Every cultivator's points appeared on the ranking board, but the rankings disappeared. Every time a cultivator's points changed, it would appear on it. With this, everyone realized that there were quite a few people who had faked their points. Chapter 66-63. At that moment, a name suddenly appeared above. When they saw the change in the name's points, everyone's expressions immediately turned interesting. "Look, Bai Luchuan actually has so many points that aren't his own. Isn't that too funny?" He previously said that Bailey Hongzhuang and company's points were fake, as though his points were real. Almost half of his points were fake. What a joke. Actually, Bai Luchuan has always cheated in this aspect. It's just that no one has exposed him in the past. This time he probably didn't expect that someone would be even more excessive than him on this point. That's why he jumped out, but he never expected to lose himself. Do you still remember what that woman said earlier? They were captured by Liuchuan's men to earn points. The reason why such a situation happened later on might be to take revenge on Bai Luchuan? Everyone discussed animatedly. Recalling how Bailey Hongzhuang and company were completely indifferent towards Bai Luchuan, they felt that it was very likely the truth. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the change in Bai Liuchuan's points and a playful look appeared in her eyes. This fellow's points really weren't that high. Ignoring everything else, with this exposure, Bai Luchuan was already very odd in everyone's eyes. Damn woman. Bai Luchuan looked viciously at Bailey Hongzhuang. Don't be smug. It will be a real joke when your points are out later. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged indifferently. Let's wait and see. Bai Luchuan snorted coldly. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude made him even angrier. If these fellows weren't resolved as soon as possible, there would be endless trouble. Young master, everyone's eyes. What should we do? The man behind Bai Luchuan wore a troubled look. Almost at the instant the points changed, everyone's eyes landed on them. They were clearly gloating over their misfortune. What's the big deal? Bai Liuchuan's expression turned cold. When the results are out, my results will definitely be top. When that happens, they will shut up. All these years he had always been suppressed by Bai Qingli. Now that Bai Qingli was not here, he believed that he would be able to take first place by himself. The man beside him looked at the confident Bai Luchuan with a complicated expression. He knew very well his young master's results over the years. In the past, young noble had always been ranked second, but that was because of the points they had collected. Once these points were no longer counted, young noble would not have such a good ranking. However, looking at the young master beside him who didn't allow him to comment, he could only shut his mouth. Otherwise, if he made the young master unhappy at this time, he would only be the unlucky one. As the cultivators recalculated their points one by one, the city lord's mansion had quite a number of people to begin with, and their collective speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, everything had been recalculated. The points of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were also the focus of everyone's attention. The change in their points was indeed a lot less than before. Even so, everyone looked at them with a strange look in their eyes. Unlike their contempt for Bai Luchuan, there was a hint of surprise. It was as if they hadn't expected them to have such results. Chapter 66-64. Now that the recalculated ranking is out, this is the fairest ranking. Everyone can be completely at ease. Bai Ziyuan waved his hand, and a layer of light flashed on the ranking board. Following that, a brand new ranking appeared in front of everyone's eyes. After seeing the ranking on the ranking board, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips gradually curled into a faint smile. My ranking has actually changed to third place. Shengguan Ying chuckled. Hongzhuang, you've gone from first place to third place. Why are you smiling so happily? So what? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. She knew in her heart that there was bound to be a gap between her points. In order to save Bai Qingli, she had wasted several days. If it wasn't for the fact that the demon she killed in the end had brought her a lot of points, it was hard to say if she would have been able to enter the top 10. Young master, your name has also appeared on the ranking board. When the man saw Bai Liuchuan's name appear on the ranking board, his face immediately revealed a joyful smile. Bai Luchuan stared blankly at the name on the ranking board, his expression extremely ugly. This is impossible. Yun Xiaoman also looked at the changing rankings in shock. How could their rankings still be so high? On the ranking board, the first place was Di Beichen, the second place was Mo Yunjue, the third place was Bailey Hongzhuang, and the fourth place was Zhong Limu. However, the fifth place was still not Bai Luchuan, but a cultivator who had previously appeared on the ranking board. The sixth place was Di Xiaofeng, and the seventh place was another unknown man. He knew that the eighth place was Bai Luchuan. Such a ranking was undoubtedly a ruthless slap to Bai Liuchuan's face. I remember hearing young Master Bai say that as long as the points are recalculated, you will definitely be first place? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a playful smile. Now it seems that this result is really hard to describe. Her cold voice carried a hint of playfulness, and it could be said that she was not polite at all. I already knew that his strength wasn't good. Otherwise, why would he find so many people to help him accumulate points? Yet he still wants to push all the problems onto others. This is the funniest part. Shengguan Ying curled her lips, her eyes full of disdain. I didn't expect Bai Luchuan to be the one with the most fake points. Then didn't that mean that his points in the previous demon-slaying competition were all fake? It was unknown who suddenly mentioned it, but everyone suddenly understood. In the past, Bai Luchuan had always been in second place, but this time he had forcefully become ninth place. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had not been here before, it was obvious that the second place was not his true strength. Bai Ziyuan looked at Bai Luchuan with a complicated gaze. He never expected the usually honest Bai Luchuan to do so many things. Previously, when Qingli came back and suddenly mentioned the recalculation of the points, he felt a little strange. He knew his son very well. Usually he would not care about such things at all. And he was being hunted down in the demon-slaughtering mountain range. When he connected all these things together, he vaguely felt that something was wrong. No way, no way. Bai Luchuan looked at the blinding name on the ranking board and shouted, something must have gone wrong during the recalculation. This can't be my ranking. Chapter 66-65. Luchuan, it's not a bad thing to face your own strength. Bai Ziyuan said meaningfully before turning his gaze to the crowd. Congratulations to the top 10. Strength is strength. There's no room for deception. Bai Ziyuan's words smashed heavily into Bai Liuchuan's heart. In an instant his face turned pale. How could he not understand that his uncle was beating him up? The matter of the points had already been exposed. If he could obtain first place it would be fine and cover up this matter. But now, with such a ranking, it was truly a joke. Yun Xiaoman looked at Bai Luchuan worriedly. She opened her mouth but didn't say anything in the end. In the current situation, no matter what she said, she wouldn't be able to comfort Bai Luchuan. The following reward ceremony went very smoothly. When Bai Ziyuan handed over the reward for first place to Di Beichen, he suddenly said, "You're right. This is a part of strength." Di Beichen smiled faintly. "Thank you, City Lord." Bai Luchuan didn't accept the reward. Instead, he disappeared from everyone's sight. The so-called 8th place wasn't a reward for him at all. It was a humiliation. He wasn't willing to accept the reward that made him feel humiliated, nor was he willing to admit that he was in 8th place. This wasn't his true strength at all. Bai Ziyuan and Bai Qingli didn't say anything about this. In the end, Bai Luchuan was too willful. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the reward in her hand and couldn't help but laugh. "Gongjun, you're right. The City Lord's mansion is very generous. This reward is very generous." Of course. Gong Jun had a smug look on his face. Every year, who knows how many people are eyeing the City Lord's mansion's rewards. With these rewards, there's even a glimmer of hope for breaking through to the elementary immortal realm. The City Lord's mansion actually has so many cultivation resources? Di Xiaofeng looked at the reward in his hand. Although his ranking wasn't high, the reward was very useful. Gong Jun nodded. "Let me tell you, being a City Lord is a good job. There are so many shops in Xi'an City, and every shop has to hand over a certain amount of things to the City Lord's mansion. Think about it. Isn't the City Lord's mansion very generous?" Hearing this, everyone suddenly understood. They didn't expect the City Lord to have such good benefits. Under such circumstances, the resources of the City Lord's mansion could be imagined. "Boss, you're so powerful. If you have the chance to become a City Lord, that would be great." Di Beichen and the others chuckled when they heard that. How could it be so easy to become a City Lord? There are quite a few cultivation resources rewarded this time. I will go back and refine these medicinal herbs into medicinal pills before handing them over to you. Bailey Hongzhuang put away the heavenly materials and earthly treasures in the reward. Apart from that, there were also some weapons and runes. Everyone could make their own arrangements as they saw fit. Of course. Hongzhuang, your alchemy skills have always been amazing. It's most appropriate to hand these medicinal herbs over to you, Bailey Yunyan said with a smile. "Don't worry, I will refine them as soon as possible. I'm afraid Bai Luchuan will cause trouble when he returns this time. Everyone has to be careful." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were as dark as the night. Bai Luchuan had lost face because of them this time. He would definitely not let it go when he returned. It was inevitable that he would cause trouble. Everyone nodded with a solemn expression on their faces. Chapter 66-66. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen returned to their residence, they rested for a few days. Because of the monster's self-destruction, they had not recovered from their injuries. They needed to recuperate well to avoid any lingering effects. Their physical fitness was very good now, and their recovery ability was also very strong. Therefore, after a few days of rest, their bodies had recovered to their original state. Bailey Hongzhuang made a list of the medicinal herbs she needed and gave it to Gong Jun. She wanted to refine the medicinal herbs rewarded by the competition into elixirs. It was inevitable that she would lack some other medicinal herbs, so she had to leave it to Gong Jun to solve. Gong Jun opened the Immortal Treasure Pavilion and had a very close relationship with the medicinal herb shop. Therefore he quickly brought all the medicinal herbs she needed. Looking at the medicinal herbs in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. "In addition to the medicinal herbs I need, you also brought a lot of medicinal herbs?" Gong Jun rubbed his hands and smiled. "Madam, your alchemy skills have always been good. I have sold most of the elixirs you refined in the demon slaughtering mountain range. However, after I came back this time, I found that the business is unprecedentedly good. Everyone already knows that the elixirs you refine are better than ordinary elixirs, so our Immortal Treasure Pavilion has become their first choice. I have already sent people to collect elixirs from other alchemists, but I still need some elixirs you refine to support the scene. I hope you can help." "So, your business now is not worse than that of the Wanbao Pavilion?" Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. She was very clear about the gap between the Immortal Treasure Pavilion and the Wanbao Pavilion. How could there be such a change in such a short time? "Isn't that so?" Gong Jun's face was filled with pride. The proportion of cultivators participating in the monstrous slaughter competition in the city is very large. In the past, many people have never bought pills from me. After trying it this time, they understand how effective the pills you refine are. What's more, the price of our elixirs is not more expensive than that of the Wanbao Pavilion. If it weren't for the fact that we have fewer goods than the Myriad Treasure Pavilion, Guanhongtian wouldn't have been my match. Looking at Gong Jun's happy face, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and smiled. Gong Jun wholeheartedly wanted to improve the business of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Now that there was such progress, they were very satisfied. Since that's the case, I'll tell you once I've finished concocting the pill. Bailey Hongzhuang received the herbs. Through the herbs that Gong Jun brought, she could tell that he did not want the grade of the pill to be high. With her current alchemy skills, refining these pills didn't require much effort, so she just casually helped out. Thank you, madam, thank you, madam. Gong Jun's face was full of joy. His gaze then turned to Di Beichen. Boss, if you have nothing to do, you can also make a few of these formation stones. You don't leave out a single one. Di Beichen glanced at him. There was a hint of playfulness and helplessness in his voice. Boss, your formation stones are also selling very well. The Wanbao Pavilion has all kinds of elixirs, but one of the formation stones you made is actually not available in the Wanbao Pavilion. Gong Jun's eyes were full of excitement. You and madam are simply the signboards of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Chapter 66-67. Ever since he had received He Xinjuan's true teachings, Di Beichen had been diligently practicing in this area. His array skills were also getting better and better. She had also learned from Di Beichen, but her attainments in this area were naturally inferior to his. It's that confinement killing array. Gong Jun was in high spirits. Ordinary confinement killing arrays are overlapping confinement arrays and killing arrays. However, Boss's confinement killing array is the fastest to activate, and its combat strength is extremely strong. After the first customer bought it, it didn't take long for him to come back and buy several more array stones. At that time, I didn't pay too much attention to it. After all, confinement killing arrays have always been in high demand. However, later on, I discovered that more and more cultivators were buying it, so I went to look into it and found out the problem. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. She also had some understanding of the confinement killing array's abilities. By activating this array when under threat, it could stall for time and save one's life. If one still had the strength to fight back, they might even take advantage of this opportunity to counterattack. Di Beichen, this array of yours is quite impressive. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. In comparison, there were the most brilliant Sun Realm cultivators. At the same realm, other means were also very important. After all, everyone's combat strength was always about the same. I can't compare to my wife. Di Beichen chuckled and said to Gong Jun, I know. Don't worry. Thank you, boss. Gong Jun was delighted. I will use the money I earned to buy the cultivation resources I need the most. The best way is to raise my cultivation as soon as possible. You're worth teaching. Di Beichen nodded slightly. To him, earning money was not important at all. The most important thing was to raise his cultivation. In their current state, their initial plan was to use array stones, pills, and the like to exchange for cultivation resources. Now that they had a stable partner like Gong Jun, there was no need to say anything more. Ever since the fiend slaughter competition ended, the anger in by Liu Chuan's heart had not dissipated for a long time. Because he had lost so much face in front of so many people, he didn't even have the face to go out. In any case, he was still a well-known figure in Xi'an City. This time, after such a thing happened, an 8th place was a complete disgrace to him. How's the situation with Di Beichen and company? Bai Luchuan asked his subordinate with a cold expression. Sir, they returned to their original residence after the demon slaughter competition ended. It is said that they were injured in the demon slaughter mountain range. I think they are still recuperating. Injured? Bai Luchuan narrowed his eyes. These fellows are just stumbling blocks. I have to kill them. Since they are injured, why don't we? Gongzi, now everyone knows about the enmity between you and Di Beichen. If something happens to Di Beichen and the others now, I'm sure everyone will link it to you. I'm afraid that will be a little troublesome. The man showed a difficult expression and tried to persuade her. Bai Luchuan snorted coldly. With my background, do you think I'm afraid of them? Even if everyone believes that I did it, so what? They have no relatives or friends in Xi'an City. No one will help them take revenge. Gongzi, that's true. It's not difficult for you to deal with them with your means. However, this Bailey Hongzhuang is Bai Qingli's savior. Chapter 66-68. Bai Liuchuan's expression gradually changed. He could ignore the others, but he had to be wary of Bai Qingli. After all, this fellow was the son of the city lord and had always been stubborn. Even though he and Bai Qingli were brothers, if he killed Bailey Hongzhuang, Bai Qingli would definitely be angry. When the time came, it would hurt the harmony between them. The assassination failed and he had been worried that he would be exposed. After returning, he immediately cut off all the clues. Once Bai Qingli found out that he had something to do with the assassination, then he would really be finished. Fortunately, he had been back for a few days and Bai Qingli had not made any movements. This made him feel more at ease. It's all because of those three fellows. Not only did they not kill her, but they also caused Bai Qingli to withdraw from this demon-slaying competition. Instead, it allowed him to preserve his reputation. Young master, it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. There's no need to rush. Bai Liuchuan gradually calmed down and narrowed his eyes. What has Xiaoman been doing recently? Miss Yun is also very tired from this training. She has been recuperating in the side hall. Let her go back to see shopkeeper Guan and tell him about Guan Yi. Hearing this, the man's eyes lit up. Young master wants shopkeeper Guan to take action? It's a fact that Guan Yi died at the hands of Di Beichen. I only gave him a chance to take revenge. If it wasn't for Guan Yi, I wouldn't have caused such trouble. Bai Liuchuan's eyes revealed a trace of depression. If he had known that Bailey Hongzhuang and her group would be so troublesome, he would definitely not have taken the initiative to find trouble. However, since it had become like this, he could only persevere to the end and get rid of all these stumbling blocks. It took Bailey Hongzhuang a few days to refine all the medicinal pills. She looked at Di Beichen, who was making the array stones. She slowly walked to the side and sat down. Her beautiful face was filled with a gentle smile. She held her chin in one hand and looked at him with interest. After Di Beichen finished making another array stone, he turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Are the pills all done? Of course. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and took out the pills. This part is the reward for the competition, and this part is what Gong Jun asked me to help refine. How is your array stone? I've also made quite a few in the past few days. I was just waiting for you to come out. Di Beichen pulled Bailey Hongzhuang onto his lap and lowered his head to peck her cherry-colored lips. Although it's the same type of array stone, I feel that my technique has improved after practice. Now, the number of times I make them is not the same as when I was in the abandoned immortal forest. Practice is extremely important. The more I practice, the more skilled I become. It just so happens that Gong Jun needs these things very much, so you can give them to him. Bailey Hongzhuang had a serious look on her face. Ever since she started cultivating, her alchemy skills had always been improving, and a large part of the reason was due to her diligent practice. I didn't expect you to be so good at preaching. Di Beichen looked at the serious look of the woman in his arms and felt that there was an indescribable cuteness. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. When she saw Di Beichen's doting eyes, she couldn't help but smile. I'm telling the truth. Stop joking. Chapter 66-69. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, they suddenly realized that there was a large group of people gathered at the entrance. It was bustling with noise coming from inside. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. Did something happen? Let's go take a look. Di Beichen subconsciously held the woman's hand and walked forward. In the crowd, a man with wounds on his body was cursing with righteous indignation. This is the formation stone that your Immortal Treasure Pavilion sells? Not only is it useless, it can't even be activated. It's because of this that I suffered such serious injuries. You have to compensate me. After hearing the man's arrogant words, the surrounding people's expressions became very complicated. Is this real or fake? The Immortal Treasure Pavilion's formation stone can't be activated? I've never heard of such a situation before. My friend clearly said that the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's formation stone is very useful. I didn't expect this to happen. Let's wait and see. If this is really the case, we won't dare to buy anything here in the future. If we can't activate it when it needs to be activated, we'll lose our lives. The Immortal Treasure Pavilion's reputation was very well known now. Many cultivators came because of its reputation. When they suddenly heard this today, they couldn't help but feel frightened. After all, they hadn't bought it before. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown after hearing the man's words. There's a problem with the formation stone? It can't be that you made the formation stone, right? D. Baichen's expression was somewhat serious. The formation stones I make are all confirmed to be successful. There won't be a situation where it can't be activated. Previously, when he was learning from Master Zhongli, he was told that there must be no problems in this area. Not only that, Senior Zhongli also taught him how to confirm success. Therefore, when he made the formation stone, he would always check if there were any mistakes. Perhaps the array stones that Gong Jun collected from other places had this problem. Although this is a small probability event, there is still a certain possibility of it happening. There was a trace of worry in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. I'm afraid Gong Jun will have to spend some effort in this regard. Any businessman was most worried about encountering such a situation. If they couldn't handle it properly, it would inevitably affect their future business. D. Baichen's gaze inadvertently fell on the Wanbao Pavilion opposite him. Ever since the end of the monster slaying competition, the business of the Wanbao Pavilion had been much worse than before. Gong Jun had always been very careful when doing business. Logically speaking, such a situation shouldn't have happened. Once this accusation was confirmed, the Myriad Treasure Pavilion would benefit the most. It's been a few days since Guan Yi's death, but Guan Hongtian hasn't done anything. It's really not his style, D. Baichen said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked towards the Thousand Treasure Pavilion. This was indeed a little strange. Could it be that the Wanbao Pavilion is behind this? Bailey Hongzhuang fell into deep thought. If this wasn't an accident, then it was either the Wanbao Pavilion or Bai Luchuan who did it. These two fellows weren't people who would give up easily. It wasn't easy for them to be quiet these days. Presumably they couldn't sit still anymore. Let's wait and see for now. Chapter 66-70. When the man saw Gong Jun come out, the anger on his face grew. He quickly walked forward and said, "Shopkeeper Gong, the reason why I suffered such serious injuries is all because of the problem with your array stones. No matter what, you have to give me an explanation." Gong Jun carefully sized up the man. When he saw that the injuries on his body were not fake, a trace of worry appeared between his brows. He had been doing business for so long and had never encountered such a situation. "Sir, why don't we go in and talk in detail? If this array stone really came from Immortal Treasure Pavilion, then I will take full responsibility for this matter. I won't let you suffer in vain." Gong Jun was very polite and his words were sincere. He knew the principle of doing business very well. Once this kind of thing happened, it had to be resolved properly. Otherwise, there would be no end of trouble. However, after hearing this, the man's face was full of reluctance. "Shopkeeper Gong, I bought this array stone from you. What do you mean by sure? Do you think I'd deliberately cheat you?" "Sir, that's not what I meant. This is just a routine." The man snorted coldly. "Don't talk nonsense with me. Anyway, the array stones in your shop are harming people. The price is not cheap, but there's still such a problem. I shouldn't have listened to others and come to your shop to buy the array stones. I almost lost my life because of it." Gong Jun looked at the man's unyielding appearance, and his brows gradually furrowed. "Don't try to drag me in. This matter needs to be witnessed by others. Who knows if you will blackmail me after dragging me in? I'm not that stupid. The things in your shop are obviously not very good, but there are still so many people flattering them. Now it seems that they have received benefits from you. That's why they are working so hard to promote you, right?" The man's voice was extremely loud and clear. It was as if he wanted everyone present to hear him clearly. After hearing this, everyone's thoughts could not help but change. Problems with the array stones had happened before. It was just that the frequency of it happening was not high. What he said makes sense. Immortal Treasure Pavilion is much stronger than before. If we go in, maybe they will just cover up this matter. That's right. This matter must be reported in front of everyone. But you have to be clear. If the things in Immortal Treasure Pavilion are really so unreliable, then we won't dare to come here casually in the future. Although the things in Immortal Treasure Pavilion are more expensive, it is a shop in the Immortal region. The things inside are guaranteed. In my opinion, the saying, "cheap goods don't have good goods" is very true. Gong Jun noticed that some customers who wanted to buy things in the store were wavering. Many cultivators who had just bought things wanted to return the goods. His expression turned even uglier. In this world, there were many cultivators who followed the opinions of others. Seeing this man's words, "Immortal Treasure Pavilions immortal? Immortal treasures, immortals? Immortal treasure, immortal, immortal, immortals. Young master, You said that the formation stone came from my celestial treasure pavilion, but it's not confirmed yet. Don't be in a hurry to pin this on my celestial treasure pavilion. Chapter 66-71. Seeing the change in Gong Jun's attitude, the man's expression became even more aggrieved. Everyone take a good look. This is what they call a big shop bullying its customers. If he can act like this in front of everyone, if I go into the shop to talk to him in detail, I don't even know if I'll be able to leave. In my opinion, this is a shady shop. Hearing the man's questioning, everyone had different expressions. Gong Jun's change in attitude was too obvious, and it was hard for them to accept. I've already said before that as long as the array stone is confirmed to be from Immortal Treasure Pavilion, the compensation will definitely not be small. We will also do our best to satisfy your requests. It's you who has been clamoring without giving up, and you still haven't mentioned compensation. I've been running the shop for so long, and this is the first time I've seen someone like you. If there's really a problem, the most concerned thing would be compensation. Who would be like you? Could it be that you're not here to ask for compensation but to frame me? Gong Jun narrowed his eyes, which were shining with a sharp and shrewd light. He was now certain that this guy was here to cause trouble. Such methods must have something to do with Immortal Treasure Pavilion. The man's expression changed slightly and he quickly said with full confidence, I'm just afraid that your shop is bullying its customers. That's why I asked for compensation in front of everyone. May I know what kind of array stone you bought from our shop? Gong Jun asked in a low voice. It's none other than your shop's famous trap and kill array. Apart from Immortal Treasure Pavilion, no other shop has this array stone. Now you can't deny it. The man took out the array stone. The packaging was also from Immortal Treasure Pavilion. It's actually a trap and kill array? Bailey Hongzhuang, who was outside the crowd, raised her eyebrows when she heard this name. She looked at the man beside her. Previously, Beichen said that there wouldn't be any problems with the array stone he made. He didn't expect that the array stone that the other party was looking for trouble with was made by him. This was interesting. Master, they're saying that your formation skills aren't good enough. Xiao Bai's face was ashen. His master had spent a lot of effort on array techniques, and every array stone had been carefully checked. Now, someone had actually splashed dirty water on him. Don't be impatient. Let's wait and see. Di Beichen was not in a hurry. His handsome face was as calm as ever. Given the current situation, it would be best if we can find out who the mastermind is through this fellow. However, judging from the current situation, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the Wanbao Pavilion, but found that the Wanbao Pavilion was very quiet at the moment, as if the noise outside did not affect the inside at all. Similarly, she did not see Guan Hongtian's figure. However, it was precisely because of this that it was the strangest. Usually, when a competitor encountered a problem, they would definitely come out to watch the show. If they didn't come out now, they probably already knew what was going on outside. At the same time, Guan Hongtian was coldly watching the farce outside the Immortal Treasure Pavilion from a restaurant not far away. Gong Jun, this time I'll start with your Immortal Treasure Pavilion. After this incident, I'd like to see how many people will take care of your business. When he thought of Guan Yi's death, he wished that he could directly kill Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Chapter 66-72. Fortunately, not only had these two guys annoyed him, they had also annoyed Bai Luchuan. Now he would first destroy the Immortal Treasure Pavilion and cut off Gong Jun's thoughts. First he would collect some interest. As for their lives, he would find a way to make them accompany Guan Yi in death. Ever since the demon slaying competition ended, he had noticed that the business of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion was getting better and better. Many of his regular customers had also appeared in the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. This feeling really made him unhappy. Recently, the business of the Wanbao Pavilion had been declining. When the time came, they would also be criticized. When he thought of this, his hatred grew even stronger. Ever since Gong Jun confirmed that the man was deliberately causing trouble and was very likely sent by the Wanbao Pavilion, he had made up his mind, he would never admit it. The things sold by the Immortal Treasure Pavilion have always been strictly inspected. The situation you mentioned would never happen. Recently, our business has been getting better and better. I also know that many people are envious. However, it's too shameless to do such a thing just because of greed. Gong Jun's expression was serious. Everyone here should have bought something from the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. You should know very well what the thing is like. Some people around nodded slightly. The things in the Immortal Treasure Pavilion have always been cheap and beautiful. The price of the elixir is not higher than that of the Wanbao Pavilion, but the effect is much better. That's not a bluff. I bought this trap and kill array before. The effect is indeed excellent. There were no problems. The man did not expect Gong Jun to be so calm in such a situation. With just a few words he had the hope of clearing all suspicion. This made him even more anxious. This was his mission here. He could not let Gong Jun have his way. Shopkeeper Gong, I also admire your glib tongue. However, this thing came from your shop. It's too ridiculous for you to refuse to admit it. Take a good look at these 2 array stones. If you don't believe me, take out the other trap and kill array stones in your shop. We will know after comparing them. At this time, the man beside Gong Jun could not help but whisper, Shopkeeper, this trap and kill array was sold out 2 days ago. Although his voice was soft, it was heard by the man. He immediately laughed mockingly. What did I hear? Your trap and kill array has been sold out? I think you just don't dare to compare, so you came up with this excuse, right? That's ridiculous. If something like this happens again in the future, any one of you can just come and say that the stock has been sold out and there's no more stock to be replenished. Wouldn't that be like a dead man telling no tales? Gong Jun frowned. Recently, many things in the shop had indeed been sold out. He tried his best to buy from others, but he could not stop the business. Previously, boss had indeed promised to help him make some array stones, but he didn't know how it was going. Go and ask my boss if he has any array stones, Gong Jun instructed. He finally understood that Guan Hongtian had purposely chosen this moment to arouse everyone's suspicions. The trap and kill array. At this moment, a magnetic voice suddenly sounded from the periphery of the crowd. Chapter 66-73. Boss, you're here. Gong Jun looked at the man in surprise. He didn't expect everything to be so coincidental. Just as he was worrying about the array stone, the boss and the others arrived. With the appearance of Di Beichen, everyone's gaze changed. They had long heard that the Immortal Treasure Pavilion had a close relationship with Di Beichen, the winner of the demon-slaying competition. Now, it seemed that their relationship was indeed very good. Coincidentally, I brought the array stones here. Now we can compare them. Di Beichen raised his right hand, and the Qinghuan bag appeared in his hand. Since this young master wants to compare, then let's compare in front of everyone. Gong Jun looked at Di Beichen's confident expression, and his original worry dissipated. He gave the waiter beside him a look, and the waiter immediately ran into the shop and carried a table out. After placing the array stone Di Beichen brought on the table, Gong Jun looked at the man. Come, let's compare. The man obviously didn't expect this to happen, but he didn't panic. He slowly took out his array stone. Let's compare. This is your store's array stone. In an instant, many cultivators surrounded them. Everyone wanted to see if this was the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's array stone. When the 2 array stones were placed together, they fell into everyone's sight. The array stones themselves didn't look very different. Only the pattern on the array stones showed the function of the array stones. After careful comparison, the crowd found that the pattern on the 2 array stones was exactly the same. In addition, this was the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's trap and kill array. There was no other possibility. After seeing this, the expressions of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's attendants became very ugly. This matter had been blown out of proportion. If it was really their fault in the end, their reputation would be greatly reduced. On the 2nd floor of the restaurant, Guan Hongtian listened to his subordinate's report, and a trace of a contemptuous smile appeared in his eyes. Shopkeeper, will they find out what we're doing? The attendant at the side was a little worried. The Myriad Treasure Pavilion and the Immortal Treasure Pavilion had always been at odds. This was something that everyone knew. If they didn't succeed in framing the Immortal Treasure Pavilion today, then everyone would definitely blame it on them. At that time it would be troublesome. Guan Hongtian chuckled. This formation stone was made by a formation master I specially invited. The lines drawn on the surface are exactly the same as the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's confinement and killing formation, so it's impossible to find any clues. If they want to blame someone, they can only blame themselves for being unique. They just had to push out this kind of formation stone that other shops don't have. Once something happens, they won't be able to get away with it. A confinement killing array that couldn't be activated at all? What methods could the other party have to prove it? Dead men tell no tales. Speaking of which, it was strange. Ever since he heard that the trap and kill array was selling very well, he sent people to buy it and study it. He even found many array masters to decipher the secrets of the trap and kill array. As long as he could figure out how to make this trap and kill array and contribute it to the Wanbao Pavilion, he would definitely be rewarded handsomely. Perhaps his status would also be elevated. However, no matter how many array masters he found, they were unable to simulate all of this. Chapter 66-74. Everyone look clearly. The pattern on this formation stone is exactly the same. You can't deny it now. The man raised his head and questioned loudly, "Everyone, you have to be my witness." Di Baichen picked up the man's formation stone and sensed it. He immediately understood where the problem was. "Boss, what's going on? Did they imitate the trap and kill array?" Gong Jun asked Di Baichen telepathically. He didn't believe that this thing was really sold by the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. With Guan Hongtian's methods, it wouldn't be difficult for him to create such a situation. The other party must have tampered with the pattern on this formation stone and imitated it exactly. However, they didn't figure out how to create the trap and kill array, so they only imitated the surface, Di Baichen said in a low voice. Gong Jun immediately understood. However, even if he understood this matter, it was useless. After all, the others wouldn't accept such an explanation at all. "Boss, do you have any way to prove this point?" Gong Jun turned his gaze to Di Baichen. He wasn't a formation master and didn't know much about this. Even though he knew very well that there was probably no way to solve this problem, it would be troublesome if he couldn't give a reasonable explanation in front of so many people. "It's not my formation stone. Naturally, I have a way." Di Baichen's lips curled up slightly. His formation skills wouldn't allow others to slander him like this. Gong Jun, who was just probing, suddenly heard Di Baichen's affirmative answer. He couldn't help but be surprised. For a moment he even suspected that he had misheard. "Boss, you said you have a way to prove it?" "That's right," Di Baichen said with certainty. Hearing this, the worry in Gong Jun's heart dissipated, and he was completely at ease. The pattern on these two formation stones does look the same, but this isn't the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's formation stone. Gong Jun raised his head, his round face full of seriousness and sternness. "This is simply an array stone that you used to frame others." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present couldn't help but be stunned. The other party had already produced ironclad evidence, yet Gong Jun actually still denied it so firmly? When the injured man saw Gong Jun's confident appearance, he panicked for no reason. However, he quickly calmed down. The plan this time was flawless. It was impossible for the other party to break it. "The two array stones are clearly the same, yet you still refuse to admit it. Aren't you a little too shameless?" The man's face was full of indignation. "I bought this array stone from you. There's no such thing as framing someone else." At this moment, Di Baichen also stood up. "The array stones of this death trap array were created by me. I am very clear about every single one of them. This one is indeed not made by me." His voice wasn't very loud, but it carried a special kind of magic. It caused the originally extremely noisy environment to suddenly become silent. Everyone looked at him seriously, waiting for his reasonable explanation. The injured man originally wanted to take advantage of the chaos to arouse everyone's indignation. He didn't think that after spending so much effort to make everyone angry, Di Baichen would only need to open his mouth to pacify everyone. Wasn't the difference a little too big? Chapter 66-75. Di Baichen faintly glanced at the man, his sharp eyes carrying an unparalleled sharpness, and the man could not help but shut his mouth. "The formation stones that I made look no different from ordinary formation stones, but each formation stone has my mark on it." Hearing this, the man was stunned. "What kind of joke is this? How did you leave a mark on such a small stone?" "Look carefully." Di Baichen took out his own array stone. On one side of it, there were a few tiny marks. "These are the marks I left behind." In the next second, Di Baichen took out a few more array stones from his heavenly pouch. "Look carefully. Every single stone has my mark." The man didn't believe it. He took all the documents and looked through them. After looking through them, his face turned pale. He never thought that someone would leave a mark on an array stone. This was far too strange. As a result, they had truly made a mistake this time. Gong Jun also didn't realize there was a mark on the stone. Now that he saw it clearly, his eyes were full of excitement. His boss truly had foresight. This kind of small mark would have been assumed by a normal person. If they didn't look at it carefully, they wouldn't have noticed. However, this also happened to be their evidence. How do I know you didn't do this on purpose? The man's face was white and he couldn't help but to panic. If he didn't succeed this time, he would be punished when he returns. Most importantly, it was difficult for him to find a way out. What you said is interesting. We didn't even know that you would come looking for trouble today, so how could we have been one step ahead of you in making the array stones? Gong Jun retorted. The man opened his mouth, not knowing how to explain himself. He was going crazy. Why would someone choose to leave a mark on something like this? At this moment, everyone looked at the man's expression. How could they not understand the truth of the matter? I really didn't expect this man to come here today to frame me. I almost believed him earlier. The things in the Immortal Treasure Pavilion are cheap and beautiful. Recently their business has been booming. I'm afraid there are people who can't stand it anymore. That's why they came up with such a method. In the future you really can't believe such words. If it wasn't for the fact that there was a mark on the formation stone, then the Immortal Treasure Pavilion would have really been swindled. Everyone shook their heads and sighed, looking at the man with eyes full of disgust. Seeing this, the man didn't have the face to stay any longer. He immediately turned around and left the crowd. Seeing this, the crowd sighed again and couldn't help but look at the Wanbao Pavilion. The Myriad Treasure Pavilion was the most dissatisfied with the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. The two sides had always been competitors. Coupled with the grudge between Di Baichen and Guan Yi, it was expected that something like this would happen. Thank you everyone for witnessing today. Our Immortal Treasure Pavilion has always done business properly. Unfortunately, there are always people who find ways to cause trouble. I hope everyone can believe in our Immortal Treasure Pavilion's character. We will definitely not sell things that are not up to standard. Of course we believe you. Everyone smiled faintly. Chapter 66-76. Guan Hongtian had been waiting for a good show. Once the Celestial Treasure Pavilion's reputation was tarnished, it would be impossible for them to make a comeback. He wanted to cut off their source of income. In the entire Xiyun city, as long as he and Master Bai worked together, they wouldn't be able to sell their things even if they wanted to. However, just as he was waiting for the show to get bigger and bigger, he found that the person he found had left with his tail between his legs. What's going on? Guan Hongtian's face immediately darkened. Didn't I tell you? Could it be that the person you found couldn't even do such a simple thing? Feeling Guan Hongtian's anger, the attendant's heart tightened. He quickly said, Manager Guan, this person has always been good at this kind of thing. Logically speaking, this shouldn't have happened. I'm afraid there's been a change in the situation. What change could there be? A bunch of trash. Guan Hongtian cursed. Go and find out what's going on right now. Yes, I'll go right away. The attendant didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly ran out. Guan Hongtian stood there with a gloomy face. If today's matter didn't work, the Celestial Treasure Pavilion would be the one to be implicated. Bailey Hongzhuang saw that the Celestial Treasure Pavilion was even livelier than before, and a joyful smile appeared on her face. Now that today's misunderstanding has been resolved, even if someone tries to slander the Celestial Treasure Pavilion in the future, people won't believe it so easily. People were like this. Once someone was wrongly accused and cleared their name, if something like this happened again in the future, people would think it was a repeat of the same story. This Guan Hongtian is really despicable. I can't believe he came up with such a plan. Gong Jun was a little scared. Fortunately, Boss was far-sighted and left such an excellent mark on this little formation stone. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to clear our name even if we jumped into the Yellow River. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Baichen in surprise. How did you come up with the idea of leaving a mark on the formation stone? I learned it from Master. Di Baichen smiled faintly. When I was studying earlier, I found that my master had a habit of leaving a mark on the things he made. He said that this was to be responsible for his own things. Once the things you make aren't good, you'll be ruining your reputation. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about Zhongli Xiaoran's usually strict appearance, and understood in her heart. Senior Zhongli had always been a very serious person. Whether it was towards others or towards himself, he always had high expectations. This kind of habit was indeed very much in line with his personality. Boss, it turns out that your master is also so powerful. Gong Jun's face was full of admiration. This time, Guan Hongtian must have been caught unprepared. Since he failed to slander us, everyone naturally thought of them, but what? Gong Jun's brows gradually furrowed, and a thought-provoking look appeared on his face. I've fought with Guan Hongtian for a long time, so I have some understanding of his character. He's not a scheming person. I originally thought that after learning of Guan Yi's death, he would definitely come looking for trouble immediately. However, instead of directly rushing to our door and yelling about killing us, he instead used this method. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. Compared to the previous public appearance of trouble, Guan Hongtian's secret scheme was much more troublesome. Chapter 66-77. Bai Luchuan hasn't made any moves yet. It's also not in line with his personality. Gong Jun frowned. Although he looked the same as usual on the surface, he had always been on guard. He was prepared to deal with the other party's methods at any time. However, the situation had exceeded his expectations. The two of them hadn't come looking for trouble first. Bai Luchuan shouldn't dare to make a move for the time being. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. I previously told Bai Qingli that Bai Luchuan has been playing tricks behind her back. I believe Bai Qingli is also concerned about this. Bai Luchuan is currently busy dealing with her, so he shouldn't be able to find trouble with us for the time being. Upon hearing this, Gong Jun understood. So that's how it is. I was wondering why Bai Luchuan's personality suddenly changed. Now that the Myriad Treasure Pavilion has gone for wool and come home shorn, I think they will temporarily stop for a few days before they eliminate this negative impact, Di Beichen said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the pills she had refined and placed them on the counter. These are the herbs you asked me to help you refine. I've already refined them all. Do as you see fit. With that said, she took out some more pills. These are for Yen Che and the others. They should be coming to get them in a few days. Help me hand them over. Gong Jun nodded repeatedly. Madam, don't worry. I will definitely teach them properly. Di Beichen also handed all the array stones to Gong Jun before saying, these things should be enough for the Immortal Treasure Pavilion to hold on for a while. The City Lord's Mansion's rewards are very generous. The pills refined are also very suitable for our current cultivation level. Hongzhuang and I plan to go into seclusion for a while. I hope our strength can increase. Part of the reason for going out to train was for combat experience, and the other part was for cultivation resources. Although the cultivation resources in the abandoned immortal forest were considered rich, there was still a large gap between them and the outside world. Now that they had an abundance of cultivation resources on hand, they naturally had to work hard to cultivate and improve their cultivation. I understand. Boss and Madam will only be able to protect me if they become stronger. Gong Jun chuckled. Don't worry. With me looking after the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, there won't be any problems. Di Beichen nodded slightly. If you need anything, you can come to us. I understand. After giving some instructions, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen went back to their secluded meditation. Ever since they had witnessed the power of that demon, they had deeply understood how difficult it was to break through to the elementary immortal stage. At the very least, with their current cultivation, they were too far away from the elementary celestial stage. If they wanted to reach the same cultivation level as the demonic beasts, they would have to work hard and cultivate for a long time. However, before going into seclusion, the two of them made a trip back to the D family. No matter what, their family was the most important. When they went out to train, they had to go back to visit when they had the time. Fortunately, everything in the family was in order and there were no problems. The only pity was that even though the family head and the rest had spent a lot of effort, they still could not find Xiao Sou's whereabouts. This made them feel uneasy. Xiao Sou was not an easy person to deal with, and along the way they were very clear that luck was a very mysterious but very special thing. Chapter 66-78. Diu Jue naturally understood Di Beichen's concerns and promised to continue the search. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Diu Jue also understood that the chances of finding Xiao Sou under these circumstances were not high. So many people have been searching for her, but they still haven't found her. She's quite good at hiding. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. Thinking back to the ancient battlefield, Xiao Sou's strength had also increased by quite a bit. Coupled with Shu Yu's careful guidance, her strength should have improved quite a bit as well. Shu Yu isn't with Xiao Sou right now. Father and the others have already asked around, but they couldn't find any clues. Now that I think about it, it's quite troublesome. Neither of them spoke, but there was an indescribable premonition in their hearts. They vaguely felt that they would meet Xiao Sou again in the future. After putting this matter aside, Bailey Hongzhuang and Diyu Jue left a portion of the blood spirit stones they had obtained from the monster slaughtering competition with the family. Because the cultivation resources that the two of them brought back were extremely precious to the D family, after a few times, the D family began to implement a new reward and punishment system. Every 3 months, the young cultivators of the D family would have a competition. The winning cultivator would receive a certain amount of rewards. Under this kind of reward system, every cultivator put in a lot of effort. It was precisely because of this subtle change that the D family's current strength was not something that the major forces of the upper realm dared to underestimate. Everyone understood that although these were only the younger generation and did not affect the major forces for the time being, in a few more years, these juniors would become the mainstays of the major forces. When that time came, the situation would naturally change. After the two of them returned to the immortal region, they went into closed-door cultivation. Bai Li Yanche and the others also went into closed-door cultivation after obtaining the pills from Gong Jun. They went into closed-door cultivation for 3 months. When Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes, a black and white light flashed in her eyes. Very quickly they returned to their usual black color. A satisfied smile appeared on her face as she sensed that her body was much more abundant than before. The city lord had rewarded her with many resources, and the medicinal herbs were all prepared for cultivators of their level. With the help of the pills and enough blood spirit stones, her strength had improved quite a bit. This time she had only used 1 pill. As an alchemist, she knew very well that pills were very helpful for cultivators. However, using them too frequently could lead to dependence, so she had always been careful about this point. For the rest of her time, she used the blood spirit stone to cultivate in order to consolidate her cultivation. Other than the pills he had taken, there were still 2 pills left. It would be a good choice to go into seclusion after a while. She raised her eyes to look at Di Beichen, who was still cultivating beside her. She did not disturb him and quietly walked out of the room. The Radiant Sun realm is indeed a very strange realm. After cultivating for so long, I only feel that this realm is like a vast ocean. Even though I can feel the improvement of my origin power, I know even more clearly that there is still a very long road ahead. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head to look at the bright sunlight. The weather had unknowingly turned cold. The sunlight that shone on her body was less scorching and more warm. Chapter 66-79. How rare. You actually know how to comfort me now. Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed Xiaohei's head. It had to be said that Xiaohei's head felt really good to the touch. Hee, I'll grow up too. Xiaohei's hair was dyed slightly red, making her seem even more adorable. At this moment, a series of footsteps suddenly rang out from outside the door. As soon as she heard the heavy footsteps, Bailey Hongzhuang already knew who it was. Without waiting for the other party to knock on the door, she directly opened the courtyard door. The person did not seem to have expected the door to suddenly open. He was stunned at first before smiling. "Madam, you've emerged from seclusion." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. "I've only just emerged from seclusion, and I've already run into you. It can't be that coincidental, right? Madam really is smart. Actually, this is already the 3rd time I've come. I just wanted to try my luck and see when you and boss would emerge from seclusion." Gong Jun rubbed the back of his head with a naive look on his face. "But what happened? It's actually nothing major. Didn't Madam tell me to pay attention to the city lord of Qingyang City? I've been trying to find out more about this recently." Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. "Is there any news about the city lord of Qingyang City? It'll be the city lord's birthday in a few days. The city lord's estate will hold a banquet according to past customs. The city lord of Qingyang City is on extremely good terms with our city lord, and they've always been in contact with each other. He obviously won't be absent from the city lord's birthday banquet." Gong Jun smiled. "So I thought that since there's a chance to meet the city lord of Qingyang City, why don't we give it a try?" "That's fantastic." Bailey Hongzhuang was unable to hide her joy. She had always thought that if she wanted to obtain the illusory form pearl, she would probably have to make a trip to Qingyang City. She never thought that the city lord of Qingyang City would come to Cloud Gathering City before they even made a move. It really couldn't be any better. She could not help but think about how Bai Qingli had once said that she would find a way to help her obtain the illusory form pearl back in the labyrinth. She didn't take it to heart at first, but now it seemed that Bai Qingli really had the ability. "Madam, the city lord Manor sent this over a few days ago." Gong Jun handed the 2 invitations to her. "Originally, these invitations were sent to you, but because you were in closed-door cultivation, they were sent to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion." Bailey Hongzhuang opened the invitation and found that it was an invitation to the city lord's birthday. This should have been sent by Qingli. Madam is his savior, he can't forget about you. Gong Jun's face was full of joy. Because of boss and madam, I had the chance to go to the city lord's mansion to take a look. That would be great. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully looked at the date and found that the birthday celebration was in 7 days. By that time, Beichen should have already come out of seclusion. Madam, this is the city lord's birthday celebration. We still have to prepare a gift, Gong Jun said after some thought. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Since they were going, they naturally could not avoid the gift. However, with the city lord's status, the gift they had to give couldn't be too simple. What do you think we should give? I've already chosen a few things. Logically speaking, they don't need to be too expensive. Just a few things worth admiring and playing with will do. I'm at ease with you handling things. Then I'll leave this to you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She had never been very good at this aspect. Having a know-it-all like Gong Jun was really the best. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.